1987 Philippine Constitution 1. Part 4. Article 7. The Executive Department. Meaning of executive power is the power to execute and enforce law. Powers of the President. 1. Power of control over the executive branch. 2. Ordinance power. 3. Power over aliens. 4. Diplomatic power. 5. Power of appointment. 6. Military power. 7. Powers of eminent domain. 8. Power of appointment. 9. Power of general supervision over local governments. 10. Other powers. Qualifications of President and Vice President. 1. Natural-born Filipino. 2. Registered voter. 3. Must be able to read and write. 4. At least 40 years of age at the day of the election, and 5. Must have resided in the Philippines 10 years before the election. President's power of control is exercised over the executive branch, over all the executive departments, bureaus, and offices. What is included in the ordinance power of the President? It includes the issuance by the President of the following. 1. Administrative orders. 2. Proclamations. 3. Memorandum orders. 4. Memorandum circulars. 5. General or special orders. Different roles of the President. 1. Chief of State. 2. Chief Executive. 3. Chief Administrator. 4. Chief Diplomat. 5. Commander-in-Chief. 6. Chief Legislator. 7. Chief of Party. 8. Chief Citizen. Manner of election of President and Vice President. The President and the Vice President shall be elected by direct vote of the people for a term of 6 years. Manner of election of President and Vice President. The President and the Vice President shall be elected by direct vote of the people for a term of 6 years. Can a Vice President run for more than 2 consecutive terms? No Vice President shall serve for more than 2 successive terms. Voluntary renunciation of the office for any length of time shall not be considered as an interruption in the continuity of the service for the full term for which he was elected. The Board of Canvassers of Election Returns of President and Vice President. Congress. Oath office of President and Vice President. Before assumption of office, the President and the Vice President shall take the following oath or affirmation. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully and conscientiously fulfill my duties as President or Vice President or Acting President of the Philippines, preserve and defend its Constitution, execute its laws, do justice to every man, and consecrate myself to the service of the nation. So help me God. Instances of acting president. If the president-elect fails to qualify, the vice president-elect shall act as president until the president-elect shall have qualified. If a president shall not have been chosen, the Vice President-elect shall act as President until a President shall have been chosen and qualified. Where no President and Vice President shall have been chosen or shall have qualified, or where both shall have died or become permanently disabled, the Senate President shall act as President. Where no President and Vice President shall have been chosen or shall have qualified, and the Senate President is unable to act, in case of inability, the Speaker of the House of Representatives shall act as President until a President or a Vice President shall have been chosen and qualified. Instances when the Vice President shall become the President. In case of death, permanent disability, removal from office, or resignation of the President, the Vice President shall become the President to serve the unexpired term. Whenever the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties, he shall transmit to the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives his written declaration that he is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. Such powers and duties shall be discharged by the Vice President as acting President. In case of serious illness of the President, the public shall be informed of the state of his health. Officers that shall not be denied access to the President during serious illness. In case of serious illness of the President, the following officers shall not be denied access: the members of the Cabinet in charge of national security, officer in charge of foreign relations, Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Prohibition to hold any other office, employment, or business. A. President. B. Vice President. C. Members of the Cabinet, and their deputies. Prohibition on relatives within the fourth civil degree. The spouse and relatives by consanguinity or affinity within the fourth civil degree of the President shall not be appointed as members of the constitutional commissions, office of the Ombudsman, secretaries, undersecretaries, chairmen or heads of bureaus or offices, including government-owned or controlled corporations and their subsidiaries. Status of appointments extended by an acting President. Appointments extended by an acting President shall remain effective, unless revoked by the elected President within 90 days from his assumption or reassumption of office. Prohibition on appointment 2 months before the next presidential elections. 2 months immediately before the next presidential elections and up the end of his term, a President or acting President shall not make appointments, except temporary appointments to executive positions when continued vacancies therein will prejudice public service or endanger public safety. President's appointment with the consent of Commission on Appointment. The President shall nominate with the consent of the Commission on Appointments the following: A. Heads of the executive departments. B. Ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls. C. Officers of the armed forces from the rank of colonel or naval captain. D. Other officers whose appointments are vested to him by the Constitution. Presidential power to pardon. Except in cases of impeachment, or as otherwise provided in this Constitution, the President may grant: A. Reprieves. B. Commutations. C. Pardons. D. Remit fines and forfeitures. E. Grant amnesty with the concurrence of Congress. President as Commander-in-Chief of Armed Forces of the Philippines. The President shall be the Commander-in-Chief of all armed forces of the Philippines, and whenever it becomes necessary, he may call out such armed forces to prevent or suppress lawless violence, invasion, or rebellion. In case of invasion or rebellion, when the public safety requires it, he may, for a period not exceeding 60 days, suspend the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus, or place the Philippines or any part thereof under martial law. Treaty ratification. No treaty or international agreement shall be valid and effective, unless concurred in by at least 2/3 of all the members of the Senate. President's submission of budget of expenditures to Congress. The President shall submit to the Congress within 30 days from the opening of every regular session, as the basis of the General Appropriations Bill, a budget of expenditures and sources of financing, including receipts from existing and proposed revenue measures. State of the Nation Address, SONA. The President shall address the Congress at the opening of its regular session. He may also appear before it at any other time. What is an executive privilege? It is the authority of the President to withhold documents or information in his possession, or in the possession of the executive branch, from compulsory process of the legislative or judicial branch of the government. What is executive order? It is a directive, rule, or regulation issued by the President that have the force of law. What is a treaty? It is a formal agreement between two or more independent states. What is executive agreement? It is a pact between the President and the head of a foreign state or their subordinates. It has the same standing as a treaty but does not require approval by Congress. What is persona non grata? An unwelcome person. Cabinet means a body made up of the heads of the executive departments that advises the President. Recognition of government means the act of acknowledging the legal existence of a country and its government. What is line item veto? The power to cancel out specific provisions, or line items in a bill, while approving the rest of the measure. What is reprieve? The postponement of the carrying out of a criminal sentence. What is commutation? The power to reduce a fine or the length of a sentence imposed by a court. What is pardon? The legal forgiveness of a crime. Kinds of pardon. A. Absolute pardon is a method through which an executive authority legally forgives someone for a crime, and reinstates rights lost post-conviction. It is complete even without acceptance. B. Conditional pardon refers to the conditional exemption of a guilty offender for the punishment imposed by a court. It has no force until it is accepted by the condemned. What is parole? It is the conditional release of a prisoner from correctional institution after serving the minimum period of prison sentence. What is amnesty? It is act of liberality extended by the government to a group or class of people, usually for a political offense. What is clemency? The power of mercy or leniency. Presidential succession means the scheme by which a presidential vacancy is filled. What is a delegated power? Powers granted by the Constitution. What is an expressed power? Powers specified clearly in the Constitution. What is implied power? Powers not specifically mentioned, but suggested by the expressed powers. What is reserved power? Powers not given to the national government. What is exclusive power? Powers that can only be used by the national government. What is Supremacy Clause? The provision declaring the Constitution to be the supreme law of the land. What is concurrent power? Powers shared by the national and local governments. What is inherent power? An authority possessed without it being derived from another. What is extradition? The legal process of returning a fugitive to a state. What is an extradition treaty? It is an international agreement in which the requested state agrees, at the request of the requesting state and under specified conditions, to turn over persons who are within its jurisdiction and who are charged with crimes against, or are fugitives from, the requesting state. What is popular sovereignty? The political principle that people are the source of all governmental power and that government requires the consent of the governed.